The draft is over. The Pacers make their picks. Kam Jones from Marquette, Taelon Peter from Liberty, and some undrafted guys. Why did they pick these players? What's the high-level overview? What does it mean for the rest of the roster? We'll talk about it on today's Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Happy Friday. Congrats. You made it through the week, and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes, and today the draft has happened. The Pacers made no moves. They just made their picks on night 2, which I kind of expected after they did their pre-draft trade with the Spurs on Wednesday. They have 2 new players in Kam Jones and Taelon Peter, and there's a lot to discuss on those 2 players, what they could mean, where they could slot in on the team, what it means for some other players on the Pacers. A lot of chatter about the center position for some reason, which I hope people who are saying that listened to yesterday's show, and I told you why I don't think it actually matters if the Pacers pick a center or not, and so much more that we have to talk about with this Pacers draft. Whew, what a doozy of a day. The second round just gets wild, and then after all the undrafted guys and two-way guys and all that happens, if you want, there's some stuff on my Twitter feed about some guys they signed after the draft ended, but no one is here for that. You're here because of the guys they picked. Let's start with Kam Jones, the Pacers pick at 38. Kam with a K. He comes from Marquette. And boy, oh boy, does this guy have some stats that are Pacery, right? First of all, to start, I remember this years ago as something Kevin Pritchard said when actually talking about Jeremy Lamb. Jeremy Lamb in the NBA just kept putting up more and more stats before the Pacers got him. And Kevin Pritchard has applied this to other players too, but the first time I remember him saying it was Jeremy Lamb. But he always says when he sees guys who have steady improvement at differing skills in the pros, that is generally a sign that they really like basketball and they're willing to put in the work to be a good player. And that is the standout Kam Jones thing, beyond that he is a very good player, is that his scoring ratchets up every year of college, right? Per game, that's obvious. His minutes went up, but even per minute, his scoring went from 16 to 20 to 24 across his first 3 years. His shooting was awesome, right? He got better, much better as a passer. He cut down some turnovers and just became a better and better guard. 6'4", from Tennessee, played at Marquette all 4 years of his college career, played 137 collegiate games, 19.2 points per game his final year in the Big East. I believe an All-American. It's very confusing with what all these awards are on Basketball Reference. And if you go to Marquette's bio page, there's like 10 million awards, which is generally a positive sign to read a few of them on his bio page. Second team All-American, Big East first team, Big East All-Tournament team. He had a great senior year. Good score, but the things that make him Pacers-y beyond the year-to-year growth that are very obvious is, quickly, let's scroll down to his advanced stats. And to be clear, when I talk about anyone I talk about today, I have not watched any full games of them yet because the draft has been over for about 2 hours, but later this weekend, I will deep dive into these guys and what I think of them as usual. And then we'll do the how they can help the Pacers stuff in the summer. Kam Jones advanced stats, crazy high usage, almost 30% this final season at Marquette. His turnover rate his last 3 years of college was under 10% every single year. So he had the ball a lot. He can score, and he doesn't turn it over that much. The Pacers are a low turnover team on their ball handlers. 9.6 turnover percentage his senior year, 8.8 the year before, 7.2% turnover rate in his sophomore season at Marquette, which led the conference, that led the Big East, right? Crazy impressive. And that you might think, Tony, that went up every year from his sophomore year. Well, so did his assist percentage. His passing responsibilities went way up, 12.5%. His sophomore year, 16.6%. His junior year, and then a huge leap in his passing ability his senior year when he got up to 38.1% as his assist percentage, which led the Big East, while his true shooting percentage was routinely quite good because his three-point shot was routinely good. His senior year, he only made 31%, but 40.6% the year before on more attempts actually. So if you went to the largest sample, it became his middle 2 years. And his sophomore year, he took even more attempts and made 36% of them. So 36% on 861 attempts. Seems like there's something there as a shooter. And if you really dive into the shooting, I've had fun running through shot charts and random data collection websites. Above average on catch and shoots, like good off-ball three-point shooter, which is an interesting thing for the Pacers because they routinely like to run out lineups with two guards, right? And so that'd be fascinating to see if that's somewhere where he could also step in for the Pacers, is not always being on ball all the time, which does reduce some of that passing ability that I already described. But I mean, looking at his assist numbers, it's crazy how much he got better. 36 assists as a freshman, 72 his second year, 87 his third year, 200 this past year. But anyway, loves to shoot from the right side of the court. Really good finisher at the rim, like every zone on the court near the basket. He has well above average effective field goal percentage numbers. So some potential pop as a scorer and potential pop as a shooter, and a caretaking guy on a team that really values not turning it over. Seems like a win to me. I think the things that he'll have to get better at would be getting to the foul line, certainly, right? Not the highest free throw rate of all time. Steal percentage is good, but block percentage is we'll see on the defense, but he is a very nosy defender by all accounts, and people I talked to in the league after they picked him. Statistically, seems like a very interesting pick, and very noteworthy, too, who they pick at 38, because if you'll recall, when I did my draft preview episode, they made this trade with the Spurs to get 38. To me, I mean, there's lots of reasons they could have done it. Obviously, getting the best pick possible makes the most sense. But to me, because they wanted to sign said player to a standard contract, right? They actually want him on the team in that way, not on a two-way, right? With the 54th pick. And so they pick Kam Jones, who, if you go through the Pacers roster and depth chart, which we did yesterday when kind of previewing the draft, I suppose you could say that the back end of their guard rotation had a hole. I still think they need a veteran other point guard, but Nembhard, McConnell, Mathurin, Shepherd is kind of the extent of their guards right now for next season with Haliburton out. So potential for him to squeak in some minutes and opportunity there. Not that I think they needed to pick a specific position, as I said yesterday, but at least I understand picking any spot, and guard does seem to have at least some opportunity in the future, especially as McConnell continues to age. So I do understand that part of it. But just on paper, it looks like a pretty talented offensive player who is a good catch and shoot three-point shooter, which kind of masks a poor percentage he had from through this past season, despite him shooting much better for the rest of his collegiate career. So fascinating. 6'4", you guys know from hearing me babble about tall guards for all of time that I love tall guards. So I'm just completely fascinated by what he can be. And if you go back and kind of look through certain mock drafts and where they had him, like certain places had him, close to and or in the first round, right? Tankathon just kind of aggregates a bunch of mock drafts, but they had him 32nd, right? The Pacers got him at 38. They didn't have to move up at all, right? ESPN had him, relatively high. Like one of their better players coming into day two was him, right? I don't know what happened. I was on him and then I lost it when I came back to the page, but they had him going into day two, going higher than 38, right? Like he had, and then ESPN gave him an A for that pick, right? The review says the Pacers have made one of my favorite second round picks 2 years in a row. Jones has more potential to contribute immediately, right? So ESPN, who graded him high, likes it. Lots of mock drafts said he was an early second, late first kind of guy, and the Pacers get him at 38, and he has certainly obvious offensive pop and ability. Ben Pfeiffer, one of my favorite draft guys, like on his live stream, he just went nuts when the Pacers picked him. He's a big fan. So I'll dive into the tape tomorrow and come away with more niche analysis than just reading numbers that you can all read and kind of pushing those into a Pacers funnel because the Pacers are the team that picked him, but makes good sense to me given their reality and situation, and certainly has a lot of indicators that suggest that he'll be a Pacers-y player. And I would anticipate right now that he will be signing a real contract, a multi-year contract with the Pacers like Johnny Furphy did last year with an early second-round pick. Then at 54, the Pacers picked Taelon Peter. And let me tell you, this guy's numbers are crazy. How have I never even heard of this player? I'll tell you about him coming up here on Locked On Pacers. But before we do that, I need to tell you guys about Skims. Underwear for men. Skims is making it now, and I was intrigued when I found out. I've heard so much about their quality from friends and family, so I had to give it a try. Let me tell you, it lives up to the hype. Many people have issues with underwear between fit or comfort or just finding the right style. Skims changes that. Their men's line offers something for everyone, from boxer briefs to classic briefs. They're all designed with the perfect balance of comfort and style. Their cotton brief is the move. Maybe TMI, but I'm a briefs guy myself. Had trouble in adult life finding the perfect classic brief. It's a challenge, but Skims comes through with their cotton brief. Everything you love about the classic fit with maxed out comfort and breathability that only Skims can do. If you're a briefs guy, trust me. Can't beat it. Shop SKIMS Mens at skims.com. Let them know we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select this show and the drop-down menu that follows. Again, that's skims.com. Back here on Locked On Pacers, thanks for making me your first listen today and every single day. Locked On Hawks for your second listen. They had one of my favorite draft experiences, and Brad Rowland crushes it covering the Atlanta Hawks. We continue here on Locked On Pacers. Whew, what a doozy the draft can be. 54th pick comes around. The Pacers pick a guy that worked out for them. We only know that because he posted it on his Instagram story of all places. That's Taelon Peter. He played at Liberty for the Flames. If you remember, the Pacers had Darius McGee a few years ago for Summer League. He also played at Liberty. Taelon Peter, 2020-21 season, he played at Tennessee Tech, which I bring up because that year he played against IU. By the way, Kam Jones, triple-double in a win against Purdue last year. That gets a thumbs up from Tony East. And then Taelon Peter went to D2 for 3 years, and then last year played at Liberty. Okay, so I think Jonathan Givony said on ESPN they didn't even have him in their top 100. So then I go to his basketball reference page. Remind you, this is just basketball reference. Haven't watched a full game of Taelon Peter yet. And I see that there's a bolded number on his stats, which means he led his conference in said stat. Leads Conference USA. This is a guard, remind you. He led Conference USA in 2-point percentage. What? A guard? He made 90 of his 119 twos this past season. That's crazy. He made 77 of his 173s. That's 45% this past season for an absolutely bananas insane true shooting percentage of 72.4 by Basketball Reference's true shooting percentage. We'll go to another website to talk about true shooting percentage in a second. That also led Conference USA. That's insane for a guard. His BPM is crazy. Some of his advanced stats are just bananas. 6% turnover rate, and he makes so many shots. That's a good selling point for a guy that I've never heard of before, and that wasn't even apparently on the radar of ESPN for the draft. I wasn't actually watching it because I was at the Fever game. I was keeping up online with the picks and looking up the guys, and I heard from someone else they went to commercial twice, like right around that Pacers pick. Maybe they needed to put together a highlight package. Taelon Peter, you go to his shot chart, basically never takes mid-rangers. 15 points above Division I average on shots in the paint. Money from the corners, basically great from absolutely everywhere, though. He can get off his shot from anywhere. 71.5% effective field goal percentage. So let's be really dorky for a second. Let's go sort on Bart Torvik. If you've never heard of Bart Torvik, you should. Let's look at every player in college basketball this past season who had a true shooting percentage greater than 70. That's the only filter I'm going to put through this thing. I'm not going to add anything else. There were 13 players who had a true shooting percentage over 70% last year. Of those players, only 3 of them took more than 23s, right? Which I bring up as a number, and most of them took less than 10, which is relevant to say they're centers, right? They dunk, they take layups, that's all they do. Right, the top guy in true shooting percentage is Samson Johnson. The Pacers actually signed him as an undrafted free agent. I reported that last night. He's a crazy good true shooting percentage. He never takes threes. He went 0 for 0 on threes. Taelon Peter is the only guy who had a true shooting percentage over 70% that actually takes a lot of threes. That was in this draft, right? There was one other guy, Tyler Lundblade from Belmont. He's not in this draft, right? Taelon Peter is the only non-center with a true shooting percentage over 70% in college last year that's in this draft. And his true shooting percentage, again, 72.8%. 71 for 155. It's crazy. Crazy three-point numbers. Again, these sites use like different samples of shots. for the threes, but I mean, just insane. And by the way, he also dunks, right? That's what makes him so interesting to me statistically, right? I mentioned this Tyler Lundblade guy who was also a crazy good shooter this past season. He did not dunk a single time. Taelon Peter, who I heard has like a high school or state record in high jump or one of the jumps, he dunked 21 times. Like that's as much as some of these centers. His stats don't make sense. This level of shot making is insane. That's the kind of gamble you like to make in the late 50s, right? He didn't pan out at all, but that's why the Cassius Stanley pick a few years ago that the Pacers made in the late 50s made a lot of sense to me. He had so much athleticism. Just bet on a thing late in these picks. Don't pick like these well-rounded old guys who like put up a bunch of numbers. Like they're not usually skilled enough for the NBA. That's why they don't stick. Pick a guy who has a potentially elite thing and try to turn them into more things. And in this case for Taelon Peter, his thing is just so happens to be the main objective of basketball. Put ball in hoop, make shots, right? And so this crazy, bizarro college basketball journey that leads him to schools that no one really knows about ends with him at Liberty making everything from all over the floor. It's just wild to look at some of these stats. And so, yes, it's Conference USA. It's not like the highest level of collegiate competition, but seeing the shot chart and it's just all red. Oh, wow. He makes everything from everywhere. Seeing the comparison to his peers analytically in terms of his efficiency for a guard, everyone else on this list is a center besides this kid from Belmont who didn't go pro. It's just bananas, right? His selling point is so obvious. He's going to catch the ball and he's going to shoot it and it's going to go in the basket a lot of the time. I will be absolutely fascinated to watch full games of him to see how does he get his shot off? Is there any sort of dribble pop to this? Because that's where his stats kind of fall short, right? 36 assists in 35 games. His rebounding's okay, right? For a guy who can jump, he gets 4 per game. That's good. Less than a steal, basically no blocks, but he doesn't turn it over very much, right? 0.6 per game is nothing. His turnover rate is very low, but like basically none of his other stats, you look at them and go, whoa, wow, that's crazy. But the shot making is just so insanely good that he deserves several looks and why I like this gamble as an idea for the Pacers. Now, again, I like the Cassius Stanley gamble. It didn't work out, but at least I get it, right? That's the kind of pick that I typically kind of like late in the draft. And now we get to the late in the draft part. So at a glance, they pick a guard who can kind of pass and certainly can score and shoot. With their higher pick, might have some defensive upside, certainly battles on the end of the floor. He's 6'4", is a little bigger, kind of a combo guarded Kam Jones. I think he's going to get a standard deal. The 54th pick, so I think I said this already, but for those of you who didn't listen to my draft preview show, the NBA installed the two-way contract in 2017, right? So this is the 8th or 9th season of it now. The first guy that got drafted 54th overall after the installment of two-ways was Alec Peters. He got a two-way with the Phoenix Suns in his first season. The year before that, the 54th pick was Kay Felder. He signed a standard contract with the Cavs. That was pre-two-ways. I only bring up those two players to say Kay Felder, still to this day, is the last 54th pick to sign a standard contract. So even if you, listener, just heard me say this guy makes every shot he takes and said, wow, they should sign him. History says that every 54th pick gets a two-way, and you should expect Taelon Peter to get a two-way with the Pacers. Right. And I think that makes sense for a guy that was not rated very high and has lots of other skills he needs to develop. That's what a two-way is for. Go play in the G League and go try to develop those skills. But I can't wait to see if this guy actually can carry that level of shot making to the pros, which is why I want to see how he gets him off. Right. Is he just crazy good in a great system, or is there actually something to this where his own ability allows him to get off shots at an unbelievably high clip in a way that is going to be tough to defend for actual NBA pros? Man, it's going to be a blast to see. And those are the two Pacers. Again, my expectation is Kam Jones will get a standard deal and Taelon Peter will get a two-way. And now, what else does the draft tell us about where things are headed for the Pacers, potentially in free agency or with the rest of their team building? And who are they adding on undrafted deals that we know of so far? So much more to talk about with Pacers Draft Night on today's Locked On Pacers. Before we talk about that, though, we need to talk about game time. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's a game day. You suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where game time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes it all possible, and it makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to the first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. It's the official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB. It makes it easy to browse the app for exciting upcoming MLB games. Seat views right before you buy, so you know exactly what you'll see when you get there. Last-minute tickets and zone deals for big savings, including for the upcoming FIFA Club World Cup matchups. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. We are back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making me your first listen today and every single day. Quite the draft for the Phoenix Suns, who gave up lots of future stuff to move around in the second round, but I quite like the players they came away with. Kobe Brea, interestingly good shooter. Malawach, I like. I don't know much about Fleming, but everybody I like and trust seems to like him. Good draft for the Phoenix Suns, who really needed a good draft. Okay, let's talk about some canvassing effects from the draft. There is a particular player from the Pacers roster last year that at a glance looks like a big loser. I'd have to really dive into this. Maybe the Pacers want him as like a veteran point guard next year to be their third point guard, but I would say a potential big loser on the Pacers roster from this draft is Quentin Jackson. They grabbed a guard who could get a two-way. They still have Ray J. Dennis on a two-way. If they wanted Quentin Jackson on their team next year, maybe they could still do it. Again, they might still, I still think they probably should pursue a third point guard, and perhaps that's Jackson, but they did also draft two guards. So if they wanted to keep him around on a two-way or not, I think there's a lot less reasons to do so, even though it is still completely possible to me. But keep that in mind that they did pick two guards, and they have Ray J. Dennis on a two-way already because he signed a 2-year two-way. They have Nemhard and McConnell. It for table setters or traditionally point guards. If you think Kam Jones can be point guard number 3, then that's it. And if you think that the Pacers should want more than Kam Jones as their, third point guard guy, a veteran, and Jones should play like 1 and 2 or be like the third 2 guard or something like that, then maybe they do search for a table setter on the market still, and that could be Quentin Jackson, but I would say that they would probably go the veteran route. I don't know that. So at a glance to me, he seems to have had a tough night, and if you wanted him back on the Pacers, I would say those chances dropped, even though I do think he's good dating back to last summer league, as many of you know. So I would get it if they kept him, but I think the chances probably dropped in this one. In the same way, Enrique Freeman, potentially a winner. No big men taken by the Pacers. That's where I want to go next. I said it yesterday. I thought I had people prepped, but I know not everybody listens to this. I had a lot of wow, they didn't pick a center. Like this kid from Stanford, people really thought they would pick because he was still available at 38. Maxime Reynaud, I hope I said that right. That was somebody I think a lot of people were suggesting that they would pick because he was still there at 38. Kalkbrenner went before them. So a lot of, they should get this center guy, and then they didn't pick a center, and then they didn't pick a center again. And I got a lot of, why didn't they pick a center? They have no centers. Well, I'm guessing they have confidence they're going to have centers, right? And I've said the whole time that my expectation is that Myles Turner will be back. I don't know that, but that is what every single sign points to and what all logic dictates, right? That makes the most sense by far. And my also expectation is that at least one, perhaps two of the other 3 guys that finished the season on their roster as centers, Isaiah Jackson, Thomas Bryant, Tony Bradley, at least 2 of them could also be back, right, to fill out their 3-man center rotation. Or maybe throw in Wiseman instead of one of those last 2 guys, right? They have ways internally to fill out their center rotation, and for not that much, right? They're going to have to sign Turner to what he costs, but I would imagine the best case scenario for Isaiah Jackson to potentially maximize his future earnings and recoup his value would be to be the Pacers backup center on a minimum deal, right? Bryant and Bradley should only cost minimum, or Wiseman. They were already only on minimum deals, right? So they could also there's always a surplus of centers just kind of out there who can fill gaps, right? The Pacers got Tony Bradley, who was playing rotation minutes in the finals in March, right? So I think they're confident, that they'll be able to build a center rotation regardless of this draft or not. And I had a lot of people say they need a center, they need a backup center. No one they're drafting is going to be in their rotation, right? No one the Pacers were picking on Thursday night was going to be somebody they were playing right away. They're trying to win. Sometimes second-round picks, like Andrew Nemhard, get in teams' rotations early in their careers, but typically those teams aren't trying to be good, right? That's why I was like, oh, there's no way this guy's going to play. And why I said yesterday, I think they should just pick BPA. I don't think position really matters to them at all. I suppose you could make the argument for guard or center because they're kind of have, even if they have Turner on a long-term deal, they kind of have the least long-term security off the bench there with McConnell aging and kind of like what's going to happen with Jackson and these other guys. So I guess I would have understood it in that way, but I wasn't surprised they did not take a center at all. That does potentially make it plausible to keep Enrique Freeman for a second round of a two-way. I really liked Enrique Freeman after Summer League. I was kind of liked Enrique Freeman during the season. It didn't quite pan out the way that I thought it would for him, but he still had a nice year. He's a good motory energy big who can space it a bit. Not a need right now to talk a lot about Enrique Freeman, but I'll be very curious where the Pacers view him. They picked him last year and where things go from there. So no losers in the center department. If anything, winners. Those guys now are more needed in some ways. But then some losers in the guard department for the Pacers. Other stuff that happened after the draft. So far, what we know, obviously this will expand, is that they have signed a couple guys since the draft. RJ Felton is taking an Exhibit 10. He was a guard from East Carolina. He actually had a pre-draft workout with the Pacers as well. He's signing an Exhibit 10. I'm all over the place with my tabs today. Sorry. UConn big Samson Johnson is signing a deal with the Pacers. He also, when I went back to that sorting college players by true shooting percentage, was number 177% true shooting at UConn last year. 45 dunks, lives around the rim kind of guy. Great. Totally get the point of that one. I've seen reporting elsewhere, including from Michael Scotto, that Stephen Ashworth from Creighton is signing with the Pacers. Again, I would assume this. I don't know that anyone signed post-draft is getting an Exhibit 10. It's possible they're getting a two-way or in the mix for a two-way or whatever, but that's just my guess. So those three are the three names that I have heard or seen so far and gotten some up myself. But obviously that list could or will expand like it does every year. So as it stands now, my guess for what the Summer League roster is at the moment of 8 players that will reach somewhere between 12 and 15. Johnny Furphy, Stephen Ashworth, Samson Johnson, RJ Felton, Ray J. Dennis, potentially Enrique Freeman, Kam Jones, and Taelon Peter. If you think I missed some young guy on the Pacers who could do it, let me know. But I don't know if Jarris would do it. No one else really makes sense to play again who's actually on the Pacers roster, especially after their season went so long and Jarris was hurt at the end of the year. So I would assume everybody else would be from the free agent mix or from the boom. Perhaps Quentin Jackson comes back for another round of Summer League. He was quite good outside of a poor first game in Summer League last year. But that's the draft. The Pacers have 2 new guys. Kam Jones, I expect to see on a standard deal. And Taelon Peter, I expect to see on a two-way. We will see, and I will have way better thoughts on these guys after I have some time to really dive into what they can bring, what their skills are, how they do the things they do, and not just what the stats say they do. Really looking forward to diving into that. Thank you guys so much for listening today and to every Locked On Pacers in the offseason so far. Tomorrow, we'll either deep dive into these guys or chat with people who know more about them as players. And then through the weekend, I want to talk way more in depth about Myles Turner's free agency and so much more. So plenty more coming here on Locked On Pacers. Thank you guys so much for listening today. You can find me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Tony Rees. This podcast is on Instagram at Locked On Pacers and on Twitter under the same handle. Back tomorrow talking more about the Pacers offseason. Until then, everybody have a wonderful day.